Hi guys, our project is on sex offender management and supervision across the U.S. states. There are about 250,000 sex offenders under formal supervision and management. There are certain practices and tools that can be used to reduce the crimes of these sexual-based offenses, but how often are they being used from state to state? We found that there is limited federal law on the management of sex offenders, so there's a lot of variation between the states. This can have a lot of impact from person to person. There hasn't been a systematic analysis on this project since the early 1900s, so I want to gain an overview and also capture some of the policies and practices from the different agencies. We want to do this by seeing what inventory we have for each of the states, what kind of documents, forms, or policies are available, and what are the domains and subdomains that are starting to emerge from them. First, we conducted our search through government correctional agencies and departments from each state, and we looked for general content within sex offenders, specifically treatment programs or risk assessments or anything else related. Currently, we're still in the early process of our data collection. We did brainstorm a broad list of areas of practice that we saw that kept emerging from our findings, and we're going to look into them a little bit more. We coded and kept track of all our documents and findings through a spreadsheet. If it related to a domain, we put 1. If it didn't relate to a domain, we put 0. In the interest of time, I won't go into all these domains and subcategories that we found, but I will go into a couple of them. For example, restrictions. This ties into residency restrictions, employment restrictions, place-based restrictions, which means the offender isn't allowed to go to playgrounds, parks, or libraries, or anything along those lines, internet restrictions, and other kinds of restrictions that we saw. There's also special populations, which could tie into juveniles, elderly, those with developmental disabilities, homelessness, and high-risk offenders or sexually violent predators. We also saw treatment, which could tie into risk assessment or how they're being assessed for their risk level, whether it's static, dynamic, what type of risk assessment they're using, the levels of treatment they have based on these risk assessments, and some kind of treatment models or approaches. This is an example of one of the things that we might find within these data. This would tie into treatment because it's talking about the treatment levels and therapy sessions that they have available for Michigan. This is important because we want to understand the scope of practices and policies being used. We want to know the similarities and differences between each state. This is a high-stakes population, so it's critical to identify some of the evidence-based models that are being used and where it's being used. For the future of our research, we hope to continue coding, surveying our inventory, and conduct a deeper dive into some specific states. We also hope to outreach to some practitioners within each state to work more closely and get a better sense of what is being used. And then we hope to present our systematic analysis to the SMART office, which is the U.S. Department of Justice. Thank you so much.